So when he came to the Niners, he'd been banged up. This was I compared it yesterday to getting an aging pitcher. Listen, can we get 3 big innings years out of him? We're not getting 6. So I always thought if McCaffrey could get him a trophy, 3 years, but he came to the Niners banged up. What is remarkable, though, is that Kyle Shanahan has a losing record without him. And I think Shanahan's an excellent coach. What it tells me is McCaffrey is a sensational all-time talent. Are you surprised a little that just taking him out, they're a different franchise, it feels like, Greg?
I don't know if we have a large enough sample size, Colin, to say that for sure. I think what the film shows regarding when McCaffrey's not in is that they're limited in what they can do as far as the motions and the shifts and the formation variation. This is a very schemed up offense.
Yeah.
When McCaffrey and Samuel are in the game together, they do a lot of things in terms of movement pre-snap, in terms of formations, things that cause a lot of questions for defenses, how they want to handle it. And when he's not in, even though Jordan Mason ran well for the first part of the season and gained yards, maybe was second or third in the league in rushing, they can't do the same things in terms of the movement and the formation variation simply because McCaffrey is so good as a receiver. Yeah. And that's the other element to his game. And it also allows Samuel to become a much better player. Samuel's not the same player because McCaffrey's not there, because Samuel is a pure receiver, Colin,
yeah.
And I think you would agree.
Yeah.
You would not talk about Samuel the way you talk about Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase.
No.
He's not that kind of player.
Yeah.
No, he's a schemed-up player, and they can't do the scheming that allows them to be what they are.
Love this. Love this, love this, love this, because this has not been discussed enough. In fact, people were kind of saying, hey, Christian McCaffrey, you know, they already have the run game going without him, so they can't blame the lack of run game, this, that, and the third. And that is the type of offense that Shanahan runs, right? Like, it is such this schemed up offense that is so above, you know, the shoulders that when you start to take away a piece or two, things can really unravel. And this is what I'd been saying about Shanahan, and this is not like a negative in terms of him, but in terms of why it's been so difficult to coach and come up with game plans and win reliably when you have all these weapons going in and out, in and out, in and out, because it changes the game completely. And it does then make a team like the 49ers less resilient. That is undeniable. It'll make a team like the 49ers, you know, the way how it's constructed and the way how Shanahan runs his offenses. And again, maybe that can change over time. That's kind of more up to Shanahan, honestly. And I guess suppose the GM. But it'll make you that when you have everything going, that's why maybe even how everyone kind of says the Avengers, and they say it as a negative when talking about the 49ers, especially when talking about Brock Purdy. But maybe we need to like kind of take back that term, honestly, and be like, yeah, of course, when you have the Avengers, this team really hums. It's not saying that this team needs to be stacked, but you need the right pieces. You need the right threats. Maybe you don't need someone as great as Christian McCaffrey, but you need someone who can run and catch at enough of a level that then opens it up for Debo, you know, the offense as a whole, whatever it may be. And the way I look at it like is MMA fighting. What makes various fighters so dangerous is not their ability to be really great boxers or really great grapplers, or, you know, let's simplify this very, very much. So for those of you who may not know, you know, MMA deeply, I'm not going to act like I do. Yeah, people who can really kick. They're great kickers. They can kick. That's what makes them special. You have other guys that it's like, well, they got to get you to the ground. They're going to be able to wrestle you and get you into submission. That's what makes them special, right? That is their superpower. But they still need to be able to do some of these. They still need to be able to spar, punch. They still need to be able to do some of these other things that make you still a complete fighter, even if it's not what makes you special. Whereas now, if we take away that guy who can, as long as he gets you down to the mat, he can really wrestle you. But if you take away his ability to, though, like also kind of punch and also kind of kick, standing up, being upright, he won't make it far. Because you still need to be able to do the other stuff. Otherwise, the other fighter will be able to exploit you. And sure, you better hope that you can get him to the ground. But if you can't, you're in trouble. you're in significant trouble. I cannot talk. I am just messing up all my R words today. I don't know why. Having like 8-year-old PTSD right now. But that's just the way it is. And so with the 49ers, to me, that's kind of the lens that I'm looking at this team. And I've said this about other teams in the past, especially the Eagles this season. When their season was unfolding, I was like, listen, it could be that the Eagles are actually a really great team, but they're not resilient. That when you do take away an AJ or Devontae, they really kind of can crumble. And there's definitely other teams that can be significantly more resilient. And what I'm kind of realizing is that, and I'm definitely an offensive forward person, build the offense, get the offensive head coach. But it does seem to me that you can be a more resilient team if you are a defensive-led team. Now, you might not be as powerful, and you can't really roll a team, and you really can't, it's a lot harder, I think, to reach your peak, but you can be more resilient. And surprise, surprise, if the 49ers had a better defense, they would be significantly more resilient. And they would be able to call different games. They would be able to deal with some of these injuries, I think, offensively much better. But I think what Greg Cosell is saying also really, really validates Brock Purdy. Because it's the way how this offense is run, the way that what Shanahan has asked Brock Purdy to do. Shanahan cannot run his offense the way he wants to when you have pieces like this missing or kind of in and out of the lineup. Who knows when it's going to happen? It just becomes very difficult to stick it with the MMA fighter. It's like if you're fighting and like now you can punch and you want to bring the guy to the mat, but suddenly in the middle of the middle of the ring, you suddenly can't punch. And it's like, well, wait a second. You can't just take away my ability to punch randomly. Or it's like, nope, now you took my ability to kind of kick. You can't just have that go in and out, in and out, in and out. It's brutal. It's impossible. I mean, like, how could you possibly do that? How could you navigate your own life if you just suddenly, periodically, just like couldn't read, right? You're in the grocery store, you're looking around, and then like suddenly, like you just lose your vision. And then like kind of comes back and you're just like, well, that was weird. That was alarming. But like, all right, I still can like hear and I can still smell and taste. But like, okay, now my eyes are kind of clear. What is this? Oh, then it goes away. Like it's just this kind of phasing in and out. And these sound like silly examples. I get that. It's not lost on me. But it does paint a very clear picture that when you have the offense that Shanahan likes to run, it is absolutely less resilient to some of these issues. And people put that on Brock Purdy, actually. And I don't want to make this whole video on Brock Purdy, but I do think that this validates kind of some of the issues that some people perceive, and I'm using that word very specifically, perceive Brock Purdy to have. It's a very specific offense that is not resilient, that when you take away a piece like a Christian McCaffrey, Shanahan can't do what he wants to do. He is shown to not really be adaptable in that regard. That has been one of his weaknesses that he has to, develop and learn and grow as a head coach, like all great head coaches have to do. No coach is absolutely flawless. Whether you were Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, whoever. So that's not even a slight at Shanahan, but it is something that he has to kind of reevaluate. And maybe he can't. Maybe that is actually just not him. He needs the pieces and he can't do anything beyond that. I think Andy Reid has proven to be a genius dealing with injuries and dealing with problems and being able to bring players that were kind of not as great and bringing them in the fold. I think he's been awesome at that. I think I'm trying to think if there's any other good examples outside of Andy of being able to do that. I don't think McVay has necessarily shown that. I think Matt LaFleur has, although over a much more limited sample size, but I am wildly impressed what he had been able to do with Malik Willis when Jordan Love went down. And I think, I think this is still kind of like an exploratory process of trying to figure out what the 49ers have to do moving forward in terms of team construction. Do they learn this lesson now? Does Shanahan really now have a front row seat of like, okay, my offense, my identity of what I want to do, I really can't do. And I really can't plug and play some of these players. I do need to figure out a safety net for this type of circumstance. I do need to figure out a different way how to kind of coach through these issues when injuries arise, or just kind of be a little bit more adaptable. So it's interesting. I find it really fascinating, honestly. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the 49ers and kind of what this offense looks like when Christian McCaffrey's there, or again, just kind of any of the injuries as a whole, and why it seems to kind of hit them a little bit harder than some of these other teams. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.